Hello YouTube and welcome back to Allie's Wonderland Creations. I am Alice Seraphin and I am a Stampin' Up! Demonstrator here in the Pacific Northwest in that wonderful little town of Belfair, Washington, or Hickville, USA, as I love to call where I live, and I do love where I live. So welcome to my channel, everybody, and I have so much to catch up with you all on the lovely football thing going on here. So welcome to my channel. This is September 2025's Paper Pumpkin alternative video number 23. So let's get the beginnings out of the way, and as I can chit chat with y'all and tell you all the wonderful news. Yeah, that's a little sarcastic, right? So this kit is called Fall for Toile September 2025's kit. You have 3, 3, and 3, and the 3 envelopes with Cajun Craze, pumpkin pie, and pecan pie. On the back, as always, this QR code would lead you to a video that would show you how to put this kit together as it is designed, a visual of everything that comes in the kit. Down here it lists those coordinating colors. Now videos 1 through 5, I always share with you everything that comes in the kit. After that, we just kind of move along. This one over here, this one would lead you to this set of 9 dies called the Circle of Season dies. They coordinate with July, August, and September's Paper Pumpkin kit. And September's kit does coordinate with the Autumn Toile Suite from the mini catalog. Now, this is the new add-on dies. They're called the Abundant Joy dies. They coordinate with October, November, and December's Paper Pumpkin kit, right? Today, I'm going to be using Joy and the tag, because you can see they're out of place, right? The stamps are wishing you the happiest days, the acorn, the pumpkin, thinking of you, the 3 leaves, the geese, thankful, and warm wishes. We are going to be bringing in, hold on, I'm just trying to set that aside somewhere, the Fluffy Squirrel bundle. Yes. So hopefully this card is going to come out the way I see it in my head. So the Fluffy Squirrel, the sanded background stamp, and I am going to be using for layer number 1 the front of one of these card bases. This is that little bit of pieces of this kit that I got from the thrift store from October 2020's card base. So I'm using the back piece of one for Joy, and then layer number 1 is already on my card base. Here it is. I cut it down to 4 1/8 by 5 3/8. So white envelope, white card base, 5.5 by 8.5, scored at 4 1/4. Layer number 1 is 4 1/8 by 5 3/8, and this is going to be landscape. We're going to be using some of those leaves, which I do need to get. I might be missing one. We want the crushed curry and the Cajun Craze there out to huff and rub a little bit more color on it. I already have a stump done from the Fluffy Squirrel set. That was just an extra one tucked in my stamp set. And we have extra, I'm using bits and pieces that are left. So this was left in my box of goodies, which I put in my tray here. These little acorns that I stamped in early espresso, and I used the Stampin' Up! Marker in pecan pie to color in. So I'm going to try to use that for the little squirrel's nuts. This, we are going to go ahead and get some color on it using the sanded background stamp. I don't need to ink all of this up now. Because I'm using an old cloth pad, I do the rub-a-dub-dub. If you have a newer one, you do the tap, tap, tap when you use red rubber. So I'm just going to do this little bit up here. I could do it full strength, but I don't want to because I want to do a little bit with some of these leaves here. So take some off, put it back down, rub it again. I just want some color on it is all. And you'd be surprised. There we go. Look at how much is still there. That's what we're after. So I'm going to set this aside again. And the Stamp and Pierce mat. So we have this. We need this. We need to do some stamping on it as well. We want this one. I think we need to do a little. I'm going to go ahead and bring this in. I'm going to huff on it. Might as well pick up a little bit of that ink as well. Might as well use it up. It's down there. We might as well put some on there. See if we picked any up. Just a tiny bit. That's all right. Every little bit is going to help this out. We are going to add... Oh, where's my little leaves? I took everything off because I had to clean my stamp room. I couldn't take it no more. I had to clean up. So we're going to use these 3 little leaves from the kit. All right, we need the Cajun Craze, the pecan pie. I don't think we really need, we might need early espresso. Let's start with the Cajun Craze here. Do I want full? I don't want full strength. I just want to stamp. Oh, I think we do need to stamp it all. Yes, full strength. So I'm going to stamp in a few places. I mean, what better for a squirrel to have great joy than a whole bunch of nuts, right? So for me, this is a squirrel's joy. Because trust me, when I put those big peanuts out there right now in my squirrel feeder, the squirrel is so happy. In fact, he's fighting with the blue jays every day out there. This is the early espresso. Him and the blue jays arguing over who gets the peanuts. I'm surprised how much the blue jays like the nuts. I mean, they're like, oh no, this is my nut. You can back off, Mr. Squirrel. They're so funny. I absolutely love it. I am looking for the Cajun Craze. Give me a... Oh no, I already used Cajun Craze. We need some crushed curry. Just a little bit for this one. So bright here. All right, so we have our joy. Put that back where it belongs. Just gonna smush them off a little bit. And that is gonna go on here. And I think we might need to take this. We're gonna add a little bit of color here. I'm just putting my hot breath, and apparently I got a lot of hot air, guys, if you're wondering. Yes, I was banned from football for the rest of the season for my outburst at the coach when he decided to verbally abuse Hank and a few other kids on the field at that last game. I told the board, there was a board meeting. I told them what I did. Told them I take full accountability for my actions. You know, I'll answer every question you have. If you have any questions, I'll answer everything honestly. I'm not going to say I didn't. I'm not going to argue with you over it. I did it. You know, this is what I did. This is why I did it. Doesn't excuse what I did. I should have chose a better place. Yes, my fault. Hands down, right? I will tell you, that coach who told the kids, several kids, now we know that he's been telling the kids on the sidelines, because this was told to me a few weeks ago too, that and then I asked Hank, and Hank told me more of the story, that he's been telling kids the reason why they're not playing during games is because if you want to win, then these other kids need to play because they're better than you. So this coach who's done all this, his punishment for telling Hank to shut up and go away when Hank was reminding him he hadn't been in the game, and Hank was polite. Hank did say, well, he tried to. He went up and said, hey, coach, in his name, because they have been instructed. The coaches even told us, the parents, hey, please tell your kids, we have told the kids, if we forget to get you in the game, it's the middle of the game, we want the kids to come and remind us that they haven't played. Sometimes it's hard with everything that's going around. So that's exactly what Hank was doing when he was told to shut up and go away. And as it turns out, Hank didn't play. So, and this is an ongoing problem. A month before this, I went to the board with these same issues and they blatantly dismissed me. So, because they didn't think it was a problem. Because I was the only parent at this time going up to them and saying, hey, you guys have a problem. These kids are not meeting their minimum amount of playtime. Well, at that game, this is not only going on with Hank's team, it's going on in other teams. So, at the next meeting after all of this goes down, we need some color on this one. Other parents came forward. Oh, yeah. So apparently that's really pissed the board off because they don't like being questioned. In fact, one parent got up there, and of course they're women, because I think if men got up there, the guys wouldn't speak so horribly to them. She called them out on their favoritism, and this coach got very, very voiceful. There is no favoritism. There is no favoritism on this, on our league. There is no, and she's like, you know what? If you gave us parents the ability to post anonymously, she's like, she had a few words. She's like, we would tell you that most of your coaching staff basically sucks. And he laughed in her face. What is really weird about this is that there were 4 other parents besides me and Justice and stuff there to complain of the same thing. But I brought this to the board a month before and they dismissed me completely. Completely. They didn't want to hear that you really need to give these children that not only was Hank not meeting his minimum amount of playtime, there were several children that I named that were not on a regular basis, not meeting their regular amount of playtime. And one of the board members got snitty and said, do you even know what the minimum amount of playtime? And I was like, obviously, I know what the minimum amount of playtime is if I am complaining that they're not being met. So, obviously, I do. Or I wouldn't be complaining about it. You know, that's a given. So, I am banned, which I went to practice all week long because I knew it was coming down. I have no problem. And so when they confronted me at the at practice, they told me that I needed to leave immediately. And I said, oh, that is so not happening. I said, you should have contacted me before I arrived with Hank, because Hank was already on the field and practicing. So I wasn't going to leave immediately because I would need to go retrieve Hank because I had nobody else there with me. It was just me. I said, you could have emailed me. You could have called me. You could have texted me in the chat. And there's a way to do it privately to inform me of this decision. So I could have made arrangements either for Hank or I would not have shown up tonight and just had him taken to practice. I said, but you chose to do it at practice, and I am not just leaving him here unattended. So, and 2 of the board members that were there were 4 all men, because there's only 1 woman. Oh, excuse me, I think there's 2, but they don't hold any position of any talking or anything. So they, look how cute this is. This is going to be so cute. So anyways, those 2. So we have our tag with Joy, our leaves are going to be here. We're going to put our little stump here, and our little squirrel's going to be sitting in a leaf pile. He's going to hold his little nuts. So let's get our squirrel stamps. So anyways, they tell me, you're banned. You can't drop them off, blah, 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 this and that. I'm like, okay, no problem. I told them, I told you when I was at the board meeting, I admitted everything I did. I should have chose a different place to do it. But there is no way I'm not going to call a coach out for what he did and said to my kid. If you guys, you have no idea I didn't say, but if they would have seen, anybody does that to somebody's kid and sees what they took from Hank that day, it broke me. I am telling you flat out simple. There is no excuse for that. There just isn't. there's nothing you can tell me that can excuse that kind of behavior. And to know that he was telling other kids they weren't good enough to play too. It wasn't just Hank he was doing it to. He was doing it to other children on that field that day, which was beyond me. I could not. It's just uncalled for. Just uncalled for. I'm looking for my scrap of paper that I had with this, and I've lost it, so let's just get a new one. We just need enough for the squirrel. Okay, we're going to stamp our little squirrel. We're going to stamp him first in early espresso. I'm just going to use my little cube. Anyways, so, you know, they agree. The two of them were shaking their head no and saying no, no. They wanted me, like, gone immediately. And one guy said, you have a valid point. And I said, I know I do. And they all looked to the president, and the president was thinking, and he's like, you do have a valid point. We could have contacted you before, so you could have made arrangements. So if you're willing to stay in your car, I said, which I am. I said, I have no problem. I said, I told you, I have no problem accepting full accountability for what I've done. So it was decided that I would remain in my car for practice, which I did. I had no problem with that or anything. So then they say, I said, okay, so I was going to go sit in my car. Then they tell me, well, we're not done yet. And I said, okay. They say, well, we're banning your husband for 2 weeks, which was like, I started laughing. And, guys, I mean, I really belly laughed, and it took their little smirks right off their face. These men just were... My husband did nothing. My husband did not do anything. He wasn't with me. He wasn't anywhere near me. He did, and he wasn't with me at this time either. He and another father, a father who happens to be a state commissioner, went up to a coach and asked a coach what, and this is how they asked, and they said, what kind of coach tells a kid that they aren't good enough to play and tells a kid to shut up and go away when the kid is asking them a question? And my husband was banned, but the state commissioner wasn't. They were both there asking the same question. Didn't raise his voice, didn't do anything, but my husband was banned for 2 weeks. Guys, I'm sorry. You think I'm not trying to be sarcastic or anything. What's really funny is my husband had no intentions of going to practice to games for the next 2 weeks because it's hunting season. He's in the woods. He hunts with a group of about, well, depends on if it's a work day or not, with about 6 to 8 guys. And whether they get their deer or not, they're always in the woods. They help each other. They sit in their spots. If they see a deer, even after they get their deer, they sit out there, they watch. They help them haul their deers out. They help spot for deers. My husband is in the woods. He leaves here at 2:30 in the morning. He comes home. He gets a bite to eat. He goes back in the woods at 2 o'clock in the afternoon. And he stays there till it's dark. This is what he does, okay? That's his happy place. This is his moment. This is what he does for the next 2 weeks. And I laughed because I couldn't help myself, because to me it was just absolutely ridiculous of them to think that they were getting something over on us, because my husband wasn't going to be here anyways. That, of course, didn't make them happy. So then they started being really nitpicky. They demanded that Hank be on the field exactly at 6 o'clock in full gear and helmets on. What's really ironic is, as we're standing there and they're talking to me, there are kids trickling in after 6 o'clock. No pads, no helmets, still getting ready to get on the field well after 6 o'clock, but they demand that Hank be ready and on the field at 6 o'clock. Has he been on the field after 6 o'clock? Sometimes it's 6 o'clock and there's probably Half the team doesn't have their pads and helmets on, but they demand that Hank has it on. So they're being very, very mean. And what they are trying to do is get us to quit. So they can try. They will not win. So that's what's going on. And Hank, I think this is a good lesson all the way around with Hank, because I explained to him, oh, I absolutely just love this. Look at him. He's holding his acorns. Look at that. Joy. Pure, pure, pure joy. I told him we have been discussing this, and I told him, I said, now Hank, I said, Manji, she got angry. She yelled at the coach for what he did to you. I said, and she did it, where she should not have done it. I said, I should have waited until we weren't there. I should have waited. I said, but nobody has the right to do what he did to you and the other kids. I said, he was totally in the wrong. I said, but I was wrong for where I did it. I said, I will always stand up and defend you and other kids. I said, but I was wrong where I did it. I said, so Manji is going to have to pay the consequence for her actions. I said, and now this is her consequence. I said, so I'm gladly going to pay the consequences for my actions, just like when you do something wrong and you get in trouble and you have consequences, so does Manji. And he was a little like trepidation. He's like, well, what's going to happen? And I said, well, Manji just can't take you to practice anymore, and I can't come to the last few games. I said, but we got you covered. Jissa's going to help get you to practice. Your mother, I just won't go to practice with your mom. They don't want me to take him. I can't drop him off at practice. But the church, there's a church right across the street from the high school. So I said, he's like, I still want you there. And I said, well, Hank, honey, I said, the boom gate entrance there. I said, Hank, honey, I said, I'm going to be right there. On my nights to take you to practice, all you're going to do is get out of the car, walk across the street into the parking lot. I said, they can't do anything to me. I said, as long as I am not on the property where the event's happening. I said, so I'm going to drop you off right there. I said, I'm going to have my book. I said, I'm going to sit and read, and I'll be right there out of the car when you're done. I said, so you're going to have your phone. When you're done with practice, you call me and I'll get out of my car and you will see me. I said, I'll have the great big flashlight. I said, I'll be right there. I said, and they can all see me. I said, but they can't change anything about that. It's not the school property. They can't do anything about me being right there. He's like, okay, Manji. And he understands. I said, look, Hank, I got in trouble. I'm going to pay the price for what I did. He's like, but he was so mean. And I said, I know, Hank. And that coach, guess what he got? He got banned from one practice. That's it. I get banned for the rest of the season. My husband gets banned from 2 games. Not 2 weeks, but 2 games. He could go do the practice thing, I guess, but 2 games. 2 weeks in 2 games. And this coach gets banned from one practice. One practice. Yeah. So, anyways. But we are working with it. Hank's godmother's like, I'll take him. I will take him. I said, okay, Jissa. I said, we got this. She's like, oh, yes, we got this. She's like, Saturday games. He's all mine on Saturday. I said, okay. And she's like, you're going to Pee Wee night at the high school football game, right? And I said, well, I wasn't sure. She's like, oh, yes, we're going together. And I said, she's like, it's a high school football game. It is not a Pee Wee event. And I said, Jissa, you're right. That's not a game. It's not a practice. I can take Hank to the Pee Wee night that's coming up. So I am. They can't do anything about that either. But they're just being retards. Even when I told the commissioner guy that Russell was banned, he said to me, because he came to my car. Now, he's like, "Why are you in your car tonight?" I said, "Well, the ban came down." I said, "So I'm banned now." I said, we all knew this was happening. And then when I told them what they did to Russ, he's like, "No way." He's like, "I said the same thing to the coach at the same time." He's like, "I was there." He's like, "How can they do that to him?" He's like, "He wasn't out of line. He didn't raise his voice. He was there with me. I said the same things to the same coach." And I said, "I know." And so he was quite dismayed with what they were doing. I cannot find the pokey tool anywhere, so we're going to use this. So anyways, interesting stuff, right? So we're going to go... I think we're going to put one there, making sure it has its sticky stuff. So that's what happened, everybody. But we will prevail through all of this and get by until next year. And do we really want to go back? If Hank wants to play football, I am there to support him 100%. What I don't support is a coach thinking he's going to verbally abuse my kid or any other kids and not be called out on it, because that's just so wrong in so many ways. Should I've chose a better place to say something? Yes. But I would not just stand quietly. One thing I do know is that by me standing up there, they're really upset because they had 5 parents show up at their board meeting and make strong complaints about the favoritism, about children not being played their minimum amount of playtime, and they're really pissed off at me because I started it. Because of what I did, parents have started to say enough is enough, and I think that's why they are so upset with this, because they've never had any parents show up at the board meetings, and now parents are showing up and saying, "No, this is unacceptable, and if I have to pay the price for that, so be it." At least it's going to, I don't know if it's really going to make a difference with them, but at least the parents are standing up and saying, we see what's going on, and we are not going to not say something. Go nuts. Happy Thanksgiving. I thought this was a really cute thing. So Go Nuts is from the Fluffy Squirrel, which I cut it apart. I just thought that was like too cute to not put in there. Oh, so anyways, that is the long and short end of the Pee-wee banning. I told my hubby when I came home, I said, "Baby," I said, "we're notorious now. We are the first veteran grandparents to be banned from North Mason. And he's like, "I'm banned." He's like, "Alice, I didn't do anything. I asked the coach a question." He's like, "And I didn't yell. I didn't raise my voice. I didn't do anything." I said, "Honey, it don't matter." I said, "You're married to me." I gave him a big kiss and a hug. He's like, "Well, at least we're band together." I said, "That's right." Anyways, we are not upset with it by any means. Like I said, I wasn't going to deny what I did. I'm still not. Am I sorry? Or do I regret? I'm going to be honest with you, no. I regret where I did it. But that coach, if you guys would have seen just how broken Hank was, you could tell. He came off the field so emotionally distraught, tears, just broken. And he said, "I hate them. I hate football. I will never play. I will never play again." And to know that that coach stripped that from him, took his love of football, when that very morning that kid was talking about getting on that field, playing, He was talking about playing next year. He was talking about trying out for the middle school football team. All he was talking about was football. Football this and football that, football everything, right? That's everything he was talking about that morning. And that coach took it from him. Stabbed him right in the heart with it. That's what broke me. And I cannot stand up and say, I went over there and I told him, I said, you go apologize to him right now. Right now. You owe him an apology. You owe every kid out there on that field an apology for what you said to them. And he refused. He said, I won't apologize to anybody. And he said a few other things to me. But that's okay. They want to treat people like dirt. That's their choice. I remind myself that we're only letting Hank play because he enjoys the game. As long as he enjoys it, that's all that matters. Because he could have quit right then and there, and I wouldn't have cared either. But we're going to make this next couple of weeks. That's all that's left. I mean, I don't know what they think they're doing. So really what they don't want my husband there because he questioned their coach. Even though he did it politely. Apparently you cannot question them on anything, which to me is ridiculous. One of the other parents who showed up, she told them that they really should give the parents a way to anonymously report and say what's going on, so they don't feel their children are retaliated against. And this was before they came down with what my decision was, that they would never retaliate or retribution on a child. And I can say definitely they're all liars, because that's what they are. They are putting restrictions on Hank right now. They want him on the field at 6 o'clock on the dot, full pads, full gear. They're not putting those restrictions on any other child. They're making all kinds of other demands that they're not putting on any other kid. They're trying to make it so difficult for us to get him to practice that we quit. And quit just is not in my nature. So, unless Hank is like definitely done with football. If he quits now, we won't go back. But he's in for the long haul, and so are we right next to him. So, that's what, it's a shame. But apparently you cannot question these people, or they will come after you and your kid. And that's just the way it is. So no surprise that for their basketball team, they only have enough players for one team. So I'm not surprised with their attitude. And they they dismiss your claims. You tell them there's something going on, and they tell you, oh, no, it's not. No, it's not. They don't say, oh, let us look into it. They won't even go there. They just dismiss you totally. And funny thing is a week later, yeah, they're still not playing kids. So that's what's going on with that. It's all over with now, and I have more time on my hands, at least for 2 days a week for the next couple of weeks. The other 2 days, Lord gave us a blessing when Jessica came in our life, that godmother, because she's like, I will take him to his game. She's like, I can make it to one of the practices this week. The following week, she's looking at her schedule, and I told her, thank you, because, it just means that I don't have to sit in my car across the street, but I don't mind doing that either. So thanks for watching, everybody. And that's the update on the football issue. And he's still in it, and, he's a fighter, and I think it's a good lesson all the way around. And we'll see if we head back to it next year. I don't care if he wants to do it. I hold my head up high. I do not cower in the sand over this. I can admit what I did. where I did was wrong. But calling the coach out for what he did was not wrong. Where I did it was wrong. But calling him out for it was not wrong. And I think I'm going to hold my line there. So thanks for watching, everybody. And I'll see you all again here soon in my Wonderland. Bye-bye for now.